Gentlemen, okay. Tell me how, because this was obviously a notable Danish film, how did the project come about to anglicize it?
Yeah. There's a producer named Joel Michaels who fell in love with this movie as pretty much everyone who sees it did. It was nominated for an Academy Award in 2006. Suzanne Bier is the filmmaker. She's really sort of like an emotional genius with her movies. And this producer brought it to me about 3 years ago. I think that there was a difficulty in figuring out a reason for this to be remade when it was so good already. And it wasn't until we stumbled upon this idea of changing the genders of the three lead characters that it felt like it reignited something where we could use Suzanne's movie as a foundation, but build on it in a very, very different way and give it a new angle.
Had the film been on your radar before this?
No. So little is on my radar, to be honest. But I love being introduced to things. I'm like a puppy. Everything's a new discovery. But seeing this film awoke my eyes, I woke up to her filmmaking, style of filmmaking, and was not only thoroughly moved by the movie and so impressed with as Bart says, the emotional ambition of it, because it's quite subtle, and then it becomes incredibly dramatic. So to see the contrast of those two styles, that's a hard line to walk for any filmmaker or storyteller. And so I thought it was a pretty astounding movie, and I was excited for Bart's reinterpretation.
Explain the process for a layman in the audience who might not know how the film industry works. Then, as an actor, how it was brought to you. And did you watch the Danish version first, or did you read the American version first?
Well, typically, I when somebody sends me a script, it's often my agent, boringly, but sometimes it's my friend. And so Bart said, I've got this movie coming up, and I'd be interested in you for this role. Is it something you'd be interested in? And so the first thing I do is I read the script and see if I have any creative way into the part. Sometimes you just want to do something because you need to work. Sometimes you want to do something because the people who are involved are badasses and you want to be in their company and maybe learn something. And sometimes a part just speaks to you and you feel creatively ignited by it. And for me, when I'm reading a script, if I start to drift off in the middle and think of the character moving around in the world, that's usually a pretty good sign for me that I've got an in for that character. Whether or not it works or doesn't in the end, all I really want is that incentive to be inspired by the character and the situation. And of course, that means the writing has to suit your style as well. And Bart's writing has always suited my particular aesthetic. And so after I read it, then I watched the movie, and ultimately here we are.
And you loved her wardrobe, so you played the role.
And I loved her wardrobe.
Yeah, I think, and it was a particular challenge with this part. Billy and I have worked together 3 times now, and I think we're great collaborators. We love to search for things. The process is so much of it for us, and we love to talk and search for things. But with this character, there's a lot of backstory. A lot has happened in this movie 20 years ago that's kind of coming to roost now. And I think that was a lot of the challenge that Billy and I talked about is how, he was saying to me, I want to play those scenes. How do you carry that with you, and how do you play this thing now? So he spurred me on to think more actively about the character, something I changed from the Danish movie. She was really was a stay-at-home mom, and that was part of the point of that movie. But I gave him this artistic sculpting career, which I felt like reflected his inner life, and it was something he had passed on to his daughter, his artistic ability. So there were different things, and Billy was constantly spurring me on to think about this character in a 3-dimensional way, and how could we make him more active in the narrative.